right. A lot of policy is actually counterintuitive, and that's why you actually need data and studies, which they
don't have.
They
have a 3,000-year-old book.
From the dawn of YouTube, the ideological debate between religion and atheism had been raging on, but as it lost relevance over the years, the energy, vigour, and intellect invested in this phenomenon was converted to YouTube's new trend, politics. But in the intersection of religion and politics, there have been heavy accusations of hypocrisy leveled by more left-leaning atheists against conservatives for their supposed Christian beliefs of helping the poor and downtrodden while advocating for Laizze Faire Economics. These criticisms have been somewhat hilariously personified in the meme of Republican Jesus, and political pundit Hunter Avallone continues the spirit of this secular tradition through this thoughtful tweet. Of course, the first 2 points are jokes, since Jesus wasn't born because of adultery, and Jesus' parental situation is more akin to an adoption than that of a gay couple. The aesthetics points about Jesus having long hair may not be true, since we don't know what Jesus looked like regardless of the paintings, and Jesus would have probably worn the culturally male dress of the time. But his final point is that Jesus commanding people to care for the underprivileged is at odds with Laisse Faire Conservatives, as in Christian conservatives are hypocrites for wanting less government spending on poverty, yet follow Jesus, commanded people to help the poor. Hunter would probably also argue that Christian conservatives have been bigoted to historically marginalised minorities such as Black and LGBT Americans, or refuse to provide solutions that will solve these groups' suffering. Well, if religious American conservatives are so hypocritical, then we would assume that this is reflected in their charitable donations. But the data doesn't bear that out. It appears that conservatives give more to charity. For example, in 2012, states that voted Republican generally had higher rates of generous giving, while states that voted Democrat were at the bottom end. The top state was Utah, which my friend on the other hand lives in. You can check out his channel below. Now for a more specific analysis. Conservatives/Republicans in the US reported giving $160 more in charity than Democrats/Liberals every year. And this disparity persists even when accounting for socio-economic measures. This isn't because conservatives oppose government services, since both fiscally left and fiscally right conservatives roughly give the same amount. However, these charity metrics don't necessarily mean that conservatives are more generous than lefties, since the greater religiosity of Republicans means that they attend church more. Hence, Republicans donate more to their church, which is recorded as charitable donations. This is reinforced by findings that Republicans and Democrats donate roughly an equal amount to religious organizations that aren't places of worship, as well as some evidence that Democrats donate more to non-religious organizations. But the charitable disparity is mainly due to the church donations being very significant. Now, I personally see 2 interpretations to these church donations. There's one where, as these Republicans have more contact and can directly give the church with little paperwork, it is much easier for them to donate to their congregation versus other charities. Another interpretation is that the large donations to their church suggest Republicans are generous to their congregation and greatly value their services. These services, which have some secular components, include youth groups, community meeting places, and participating in charity events. There are criticisms that roughly 3/4 of the church donation budget is spent on wages and buildings, but these services are costly just like for government, business, and charities, so the critiques seem unfair. The critiques in the article I'm referencing are expanded to reverting the church system to a much smaller scale, but that's for another video on the church's history and financial structure. Regardless, even as a Christian conservative myself, it is hard to draw the conclusion that conservatives are more generous, at least in terms of charity. Still, it is more of a stretch to argue that lefties are more charitable than Republicans. More research needs to be conducted on this, particularly on religious and secular donations by conservatives. Although, conservatives seem to be generous in other ways. According to a poll done by Credit Cards, 59% of Republicans gave a tip that exceeded 15%, while only 46% of Democrats did the same. this disparity may stem from the Republicans' respect for hard work and the working poor over those on benefits. This generosity seems most evident in free Trump supporters from Texas who left a $450 tip for a waitress. Not much research has been done to explain the disparity, unlike with charity, but people who are wealthier tip more, which is one possible explanation. Now that we have established that conservatives seem to be at least somewhat fulfilling their charitable obligations to the poor as commanded by Jesus, what else do I need to say? Oh yes, why Christian conservatives oppose welfare programs. They believe that as long as you make the right choices in America, you can succeed and get out of poverty through the success sequence. The success sequence are 3 steps, which are graduating from high school, working full-time, and marrying before having children. 97% of millennials who follow all 3 steps are not poor by the time they are 28. 94% of young adults from poor families who followed all 3 steps are still not poor, and 71% of poor millennials who married first are not poor. If you are wondering why I'm emphasizing marriage before having children, it is because it is a major tenet of Christianity and getting yourself out of poverty, something which Hunter failed to follow despite being a former Christian and a conservative. I am glad his children are not in a broken home now, but Hunter risked his children's stability and happiness by being so reckless. And to those who say marriage is just a piece of paper, marrying before having kids doubles your chance of not being poor when controlling for a range of factors. Of course, we need institutions and social structures like decent schools and neighborhoods, but conservatives believe we have enough of them. We also need better cultures like Mormonism and Asian immigrant communities that put a premium on many of these success sequence steps, and conservatives want to contribute to this cultural change by advocating for celibacy until marriage and hard work, which is consistent with Christ's teachings. Of course, I have gone much deeper into this study in another video, which I encourage you to watch if you want to learn more about the Millennial Success Sequence Report. Now, conservatives aren't for welfare programs because they see no or little need for it, and when it comes to implementing these programs, they could have unintended consequences, like hurting marginalized groups.
Right. A lot of policy is actually counterintuitive, and that's why you actually need data and studies.
Black out-of-wedlock births rose from 24% in 1965 to 64% in 1990. Many prominent conservative intellectuals attribute this to the welfare state, since black women were poorer, making them vulnerable to these benefits, and encouraging out-of-wedlock births, although I need to verify this claim. And the article mentions a whole host of other factors, like the decline in shotgun marriages and contraceptives. Regardless, we now know that Christian Republicans aren't being hypocrites in their policies, since they are charitable when it comes to their own church, tip more than their left-leaning counterparts, don't believe the need for much government interference as long as you follow the 3 steps of education, work and marriage, as well as worrying about the potential drawbacks of federal programs. After all, Jesus said to care for the poor, but not necessarily through government intervention.
Is countries with stricter abortion laws tend to have higher abortion rates.
Oh wait, is that another video for me to respond to, Hunter? Well, I will get to you later, along with my other videos and people that I need to respond to. Instead, I want to get into the Christmas spirit. Thank you Stephen Michael Davis for shouting out my Taiwan video, which got me to over 200 subscribers. I would also love if you could follow my buddy Invictus Media on Twitter. I posted a spicy Cenk Uyghur meme on the same site, both of which are linked in the pinned comment below. Anyways, Merry Christmas and God bless. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give a like and comment, as it really helps my video in the YouTube algorithm, and if you like economics and political commentary, consider subscribing. Maybe follow me on my Twitter, and see you later.